I have some general issues with feeling disconnected from most of my world, even though I have a lot of friends and social connections. And yet I also feel deeply, strongly connected to certain individuals that I know, at least in this life, are not healthy relationships.
What I'm seeing is like an airplane kind of circling, almost like an airport ready to land. Like you're kind of in a holding pattern, what it feels
Yes.
like with these different relationships. It feels like you can learn things, but I think the biggest lesson is to do them differently. The pattern keeps playing out, and it's like you're getting stuck in the pattern and trying to get something from these people that I don't know that you're going to get. Maybe because it feels like a younger part that maybe couldn't get certain things, whether it was like love, affection, or belonging from certain people, and then trying to get it in the same ways from these people.
Yes.
The lesson here to learn is to release that need of like somehow these people's specific type of approval will mean
Hmm.
something about my worth, and then to show up differently. These people are going to keep being brought into your life until you are able to release that pattern and change it. Hi, I'm Sam Franklin, intuitive healer and psychotherapist. In this podcast, you'll hear real life sessions where I open the Akashic Records, connect with angels, offer energy healing, and guide my guests through deep soul transformation. Each session begins by opening the Akashic Records, or the energetic library of the soul, to receive clarity and guidance. Next, I set sacred intentions and invite loving support from the angels, spirit guides, ancestors, and all other spirits who are here for the highest good and you. Throughout these sessions, I explore soul purpose, soul connections, and soul gifts. I also examine the deeper roots of challenges, including past life lessons and how they shape the present, to help my guests reconnect with their truth and step into the life they're meant for. Whether you're here out of curiosity or on your own healing journey, I invite you to listen with an open heart. You might just hear something your soul has been waiting for. Let's dive in. Well, welcome, Pam. Excited to have you here and interested to see where things take us. I'd love to know where you wanted to start today.
I have some general issues with feeling disconnected from most of my world, even though I have a lot of friends and social connections. And yet I also feel deeply, strongly connected to certain individuals that I know, at least in this life, are not healthy relationships. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, yeah. Let me just take a moment to kind of tune in and see about different relationships, why some feel easier to connect to and others not so much. What's coming right away is a familiarity with certain people. Like
Hmm.
maybe there's a pattern or a dynamic, and that feels familiar to childhood or something from the past. Does that make sense?
It does, because these are all a similar pattern, but they're a pattern of me feeling like I need to prove myself worthy
Mm,
to a specific person, but also to these people in general. Like it's a feeling like initially maybe these are people who have something I can learn, but as the relationships progress, they don't seem to be beneficial for me.
mm-hmm. Yeah, what it feels like, because what I'm seeing is like an airplane kind of circling, almost like an airport ready to land. Like you're kind of in a holding pattern, what it feels
Yes,
like with these different relationships.
yes,
And
very
like
much.
it feels like you can learn things, but I think the biggest lesson is to do them differently. Almost
Hmm.
like the pattern keeps playing out, and it's like you're getting stuck in the pattern and trying to get something from these people that I don't know that you're gonna get.
Hmm.
Maybe because it feels like a younger part that maybe couldn't get certain things, whether it was like love, affection, or belonging from certain people, and then trying to get it in the same ways from these people.
Yes.
And so the lesson, if there was a lesson here to learn, is to well, one, release that need of like somehow these people's specific type of approval will mean
Hmm.
something about my worth, and then to show up differently. So it's like these people are going to keep being brought into your life until you are able to release that pattern and change it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Do you want
All
to
right.
explore like um maybe why you're getting stuck or how you can get out of that pattern?
Yes, because getting stuck is the problem. And with one, there's a specific relationship that I thought I was changing the way I was interacting, and it still, but I wasn't. It turned out to be a repeat of a, a very previous form of our relationship. And that was not what I expected or where I thought it was going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It the image that's coming through is like different people wearing the same mask. So it's almost like a
Oh,
different
yeah.
version of the same thing. And then even maybe the same
Yeah.
person that keeps putting on these masks. And you're thinking, this is a new person. So this is not
Yes.
going to be the same dynamic, but they're still doing the same thing.
Yes.
Um, and that just feels like you're not going to be able to help like not feeling familiar or connected to them, and so like not worrying about that so much, but almost like when you get that resonance or there's a certain feeling, I imagine maybe you know what that is, feel connected to a
Yeah.
person like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to just make a mental note of like, oh, this is this dynamic again, like let me just be more cautious with this person. um,
Yeah. Is there a way I could recognize the mask more quickly? Or is the point to recognize that as soon as I recognize the pattern, to treat it as though it's the mask?
Yeah, kind of the pattern is the mask, kind of in a way, because
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it doesn't matter how you recognize it, just as long at some point you recognize it. Obviously, what they're showing me, the angels and guides, are as you work with this pattern, you'll recognize it sooner. But in the
But does,
beginning, you might be almost like tricked a little bit,
yes.
like you don't see it and
So
you see it later.
when I recognize it, though, is the point to walk away? Is the point for me to, yeah, what's next?
Yeah. The biggest thing is about releasing your connection of worthiness to this person's
Okay.
approval. So
Okay.
you could keep the relationship, you could not keep the relationship. Because what feels like it gets hard to leave these relationships is when it's so tied, because then to disconnect from this person, there's almost like feels like a panic or an
Yeah.
anxiety kind of feeling. Is that how it feels?
Yes, very much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like more anxiousness showing up in these relationships, almost like you're giving over your power to the other
Mm-hmm.
person and it feels like you're not in control, and that doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, let me see how you can show up in a more empowered way. They're asking a question to ask you of how in other relationships where you feel like you don't lose yourself, you don't lose your sense of self and control, how do you do that?
Mm. I don't even think about it, I guess. Yeah, in I would consider those my really close friendships, and there just isn't that same anxiety. Those are all people who I know I don't have to mask for.
You don't have to prove yourself.
Yeah, I don't have to prove myself to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's almost like the other people you feel like you have to prove yourself, but you get sucked into that. It's almost like you
Yes,
lose this idea of like, I don't really have to prove myself to people.
right.
And almost like a
Yes,
frustration with yourself of like, why am I doing this again?
yes, yes. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that piece of it is getting in the way of my job very often.
Mhm.
And it's easy, I guess it's easier to voice at my job, but I also understand why, in the work context, it makes sense to me that I would have to manage that more.
Like
In my
the
person,
prove yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you It's about like disconnecting worth from action and
okay,
achievement and goals. Almost like if I don't do a certain job a certain way, then
right,
somehow I'm not worthy. So there's a lot of, and it feels like really this web is what I'm seeing from childhood of like all these conditions that made you feel like you were either worthy or unworthy, when the truth
yes,
is we're worthy no
yeah,
matter what.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Um, we could, if you wanted to, see if there's some kind of core things to cut ties with, either like beliefs or situations. Is there any of that you wanted to do?
Yes, I think that would be helpful because that is exactly where I'm stuck, frankly, stuck in therapy and meditation and all of that too. I know there is a very, very core issue with abandonment that's
Mhm.
tied to not feeling like I'm enough.
Mhm.
That is also tied to situations that were completely out of my control, especially as a child.
Yeah.
Um, but they are, even as I think I have cleared them and wrestled with them, um, situations like my mom's dementia, getting blindsided by this romantic relationship are bringing them back up again. And I can intellectually recognize that these are not the very same situation, but they still physically and emotionally carry those reactions. And I would like to get past that, but my body is holding on to them for some reason.
Yeah, it
And,
feels
and
like the thoughts that are coming up, if I could just get these people to see me or to
yeah,
believe me or to
yes,
stay.
yes.
That
It's not, I'm not even at this point conscious that I want them to stay. It's that I want to be understood.
Mhm.
I want these people who matter to me to understand who I am and what they mean to me, I guess. It's not that I want them to hold me in as high regard as I hold them. It's just I want them to acknowledge and understand, especially when they say something that makes it clear to me they don't understand who I am.
yeah.
Like, why is it important for me to get them to understand me rather than to just walk away? Why is my persistence?
Mm. It feels like because it's such a core wound, like when I tune into
Yeah.
friends who see you, it feels really regulating in the body of like, I don't have to go
Hmm.
out of my way. I don't have to prove myself. They
Yes.
just see me and they get me. Where these other
Yeah.
people, it's like, I don't know if they're ever going to get me. And it comes back to, I mean, the version of you feels very young, like
Yes.
6 or
Yeah.
something.
Even, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Feeling invisible. Did you feel invisible growing
Very
up?
much. Yeah.
Hmm.
And six is right around the time it really started getting more prominent. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're okay with it, I'd like to just connect with that 6-year-old, that
Yes.
younger part of you.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And feel free while I do this to also see if you can connect in
Hmm.
with her and just see what comes up. We'll kind of do this work together.
Yeah.
Just see what she needs.
Yeah.
Maybe just for yourself, when you connect with her, like, is there a place that she takes you to? Like, what comes to mind?
Well, what comes to mind for that part of me is that was the year that my first sibling was born. So I lived 6 years as an only child, and uh, I was very close to my parents. I've already figured out that I'm that eldest daughter, eldest sibling. I have all of those relationships, and also my father went away to the army when I was for the first 2 years of my life. So it was just me and my mom until I was two, and then from 2 to 6, it was just the three of us. And then right before my brother was born, there was a huge accident near where we lived. And so our home was destroyed and we had to move. And then my brother's birth was traumatic anyway. And I was very upset about my mom being away from home. And then also upset about sharing my parents with a sibling.
Yeah. Was there resentment that was carried towards your brother?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
then 3 years later, there were surprise twins.
Mm-hmm.
And also lifelong resentment. Their birth, uh, affected my mother's health also, and she had to go back to the hospital for about a month after they were born. And so the arrival of the siblings in my life is tied to some really serious trauma related to thinking of I would lose my mother and losing my parents, that sort of thing.
Yeah. It kind of feels like as you describe these different births happening, it feels like you're getting lost more and more. Like the image that comes up
Yes.
is if you've ever seen the movie Titanic, where Rose lets Jack go in the water and he
Yes.
starts to float away. Like that's what it feels
Oh,
like.
yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It's
Yeah.
bringing up a lot of emotion too.
Mhm.
Because that girl also felt like her emotions were um, maybe not allowed, but I don't have a direct memory of being told that. It's just a feeling I had, definitely from that point of my life on, and
Mhm.
probably before.
Mhm. But it just seems like what I gather is like feeling like your presence was so silent, like people weren't aware of your presence, like everyone else took up so much more space. So it wasn't that anyone necessarily maybe told you that you couldn't have
Right.
emotions, but it just, you picked up like everyone else feels so much more important than me.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. So there's a real pain of, and it feels extra painful because you went from kind of being the center of the world in that way, like, and then to slowly drift into the background, almost like if they're showing like a family portrait, it's like you're way in the back and it's like, can we see Pam back there? Like,
Yeah.
like, and everyone else is front and center, and how different that was. Like they're showing a family portrait in the beginning of like you were be front and center. And that
Yeah.
is such a painful shift to move back.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think more so what feels more important than cutting cords is actually connecting in with that version of yourself, that younger part, and like telling her some things. So what would you like to tell her? What do you think she needs to hear?
She needs to know that she is important
Mm-hmm.
and that people do see her and did see her then. And just because she doesn't have control over all of the things that are happening doesn't mean her parents aren't listening to her.
Doesn't mean that she's not worthy of being listened to. Doesn't mean that her voice
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. And to acknowledge the pain. Like that's really painful to not feel seen. And like you named feeling out of control.
yes.
Yeah. And when you feel out of control, when you think to that version of yourself, and even today, how do you show up? Like behaviorally, what do you do?
When I feel like I don't have control of the situation,
Yeah, in a relationship.
oh, uh, I either retract, pull away, and keep to myself,
Mm-hmm.
or I do everything I can to get along.
Mm-hmm.
I am the generation of the cool girls get along with the plan, that,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's okay to have your own opinions, but don't be too intense with your feelings or your preferences because the point is to make sure everybody can get to where they need to go.
Yeah. And what like an important role that probably played being the oldest, and like can I just not make any waves and make this more difficult for
Yes.
my parents, for my mom who clearly has been having these health issues in these two different births. She's going through a hard time. I don't want to make it any harder on her, so let me just shrink and just go
Yes.
along to get along.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where you start to lose the power, and you start to give it over to the other person of just like whatever you need, or let me show up in whatever ways that I
Yeah.
feel like will get you to stay here or listen to me. um but it's kind of ironic of like that actually helps people see you less because you're just playing
Yeah.
a part then, right? You've lost your
Right.
kind of true self in that moment.
Right. And at this point, 50 some years later, I still am not sure what I want.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing is like when you are in these types of relationships where this pattern is playing out and there's these parts, these behaviors that are showing up and these feelings of not feeling seen and heard, to connect in with that version, that younger version of yourself and
Mhm.
say, what do you need right now? Like what's going
Yeah.
on with you?
I think
And
she
reconnect.
also, yeah, I think her disappointment with the siblings also was that because they are so much younger than I am, we didn't really connect as children. I wanted, I thought it would be a playmate, a companion,
Mhm.
something like that, and it really wasn't. It was just more responsibility for me.
Yeah. So another like really painful isolation. There's a lot of pain
Yeah,
of like being alone.
yes, because prior to them being born, I was identifying with my parents pretty strongly. I thought we were equals even.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, starting at 6 especially was realizing no,
Mhm.
but also not understanding that I was a child, like not an infant, but still, I was a child and had child needs.
Yeah. And not not just not an infant, but also not an adult. Like you were a
Yeah,
child the whole time, right?
yeah,
So and
yeah,
and taking on a lot of responsibility. I mean, it's not uncommon for like only children to be around
right.
adults all the time and kind of feel like one of the adults, but always you were a kid. And I feel like that got overshadowed and overlooked because almost like, oh, Pam's okay. Like that's kind of
Yes,
the vibe.
yeah, yes,
Hmm.
yeah.
But you weren't
She's
always
doing
okay.
okay. She
Hmm.
can express herself. And if she was having a problem, she would tell us. Well, no, I wouldn't because I didn't know I was having problems.
Hmm.
The problem I recognized at that age was I wanted my parents' attention, and
Hmm.
they just couldn't give it to me in the same way because they had an infant at home. And then a couple years later, they had a toddler and two infants at home. And yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So this feels about reclaiming your voice too, like
Hmm.
your throat chakra feels kind of
Yeah.
restricted at times, being able to speak. I think it would be helpful to spend some time on your own speaking those truths that you didn't get to say, of like,
Hmm.
I'm angry at you, or why aren't you listening to me? And letting it be okay to have whatever feelings you have towards your parents, because this is a way to heal. This isn't to like shame them, blame them, but to really own your
Yeah.
feelings and take back your voice.
Yeah.
Hmm. And this feels, I know, you had two kind of other areas around money and grief, and what feels connected is like there feels like there's so much grief with
Yes.
this.
Yeah. I'm
Hmm.
living in a huge pool of grief right now,
Hmm.
related to my mom's dementia, related to this relationship ending the way it did, which the stuff with my mom has been going on for a few years now. And there was also uh, my father passed away 20 years ago, so he hasn't been part of this. But there was a rift among the siblings about moving my mom. And so that has added to the grief. Like my whole family structure
Yeah.
changed.
Hmm. That kind of always feels
Yeah.
like what I'm getting is like you feel like the odd one out.
Yeah, very much. Because I have all the responsibility. I'm my mom's guardian, even though my sister actually lives in the same town she does. And my brothers live out of state. Um, One of them isn't talking to me. My sister's not talking to me. So I have one brother who lives out of state who maybe is coming home in September, but couldn't come help me move my mom. And there's resentment there too. And also, I'm trying to preserve the one sibling relationship I have left. And so that feels very fraught again in the same way of relationship patterns playing out. Um, I'm not being myself with him because I'm trying to preserve the relationship. And at this moment, I have no idea how he will react to me showing up as my full self.
Yeah.
Um,
It feels like a
yeah,
real choice, which is a hard choice for a lot of us to think about how much do I want to sacrifice myself to keep the peace and keep this
Yeah.
relationship? Where is my breaking point where I've sacrificed too much of myself? I've abandoned myself too much. And where am I okay bending a little bit here and there to keep the relationship? And that's something
Right.
for you really to decide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. And then the other painful part then picking up on is just this pattern, this theme of not being seen. And now here's your mom with dementia and like not being seen still.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But knowing what I'm being reminded of, knowing that when she, returns back to the spirit world someday, like she will see all of it, including the
Yeah.
years of dementia. She will have the
Yes.
memories, she will know everything. And so there will be an understanding at that point. Um, but that it's okay to feel all the feelings. Like you're not betraying her in any way to be
Mm-hmm.
angry or to be sad or to be grieving at this point, even though she's still physically here. Those are always
Yeah.
complicated grief.
Right. Because she's changing, but she's not so far into the dementia that she doesn't know who I am, isn't taking care of herself, but she's changing the way she looks, the way she keeps her hair, the kinds of clothes she does want to wear. Um, and yeah, that's disturbing. For the first time, she doesn't look like who I remember as my mom.
Yeah. So
And
it's
that's
okay to,
also disturbing the child in me.
yeah. Yeah. It's okay to grieve that. It almost feels like the births, like she changed after that or she had health issues. Like
Mhm.
that feels like and almost like it feels like another version of this, like same thing happening, like
Yes,
she's changing, something's being impacted medically. Um,
yes.
and so I would say, like, what to do with the grief. Let's see what a lot of it is just allowing yourself to feel it and be with it, but not swim in it too much. Like,
Mhm.
really name it, even out loud or in your head, or write it down. Like, this is how I'm feeling. It's okay to feel this way. And really, again, connecting with that younger part. Like, of course, you're sad or you're scared. Um, your mom, you don't recognize your mom. She looks so different. And it's so hard to process this. Like, just like naming the things that are happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I also don't know. She's not going to get better,
Mhm.
but I want to preserve her quality of life.
Yeah.
And there's not a really good way to do that either.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
A lot of it feels like a releasing of guilt and the burden of responsibility. Like I'm hearing a lot of you've played your part, you've done your job, you're doing your best, and then you release the rest because a lot of this is outside of your control. And you're not betraying her by not going above and beyond or doing X, Y, and Z. Like I'm hearing like your mom would also want you to make sure you're taking care of yourself too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, and I am feeling a little bit like some of the things I'm doing and need to do are betraying her.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
And that loyalty is acknowledged and appreciated. And there's sometimes where our loyalty can go so far that it really hurts us in the end. Um, and what I'm getting now, and I've gotten in many different readings, especially if I've, tuned into parents who have passed, is like they want their kids to live their own life.
Hmm.
They don't want them to live this legacy of theirs or to be so loyal that they lose themselves. And so trying to find that balance of caring and responsibility, but remembering like this is still your life to live.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I really feel like that is what I'm struggling with in this present moment is I don't know what I want the life I want to live to look like
Mhm.
because in the past all of those things included a family presence that no longer exists.
Mhm.
Um yeah, so it's just this time of everything ahead of me just feels like this wide open unknown and previously that wasn't as troubling because there were some anchor pieces that were there And the last year, and especially the last couple of months, even those anchor pieces are gone. The constant is me.
Yeah. Um, and there's a reminder that just because we're not blood related to someone doesn't mean like we can't have them as family. And so
Right,
like showing up
right.
like at your friends of like there are still these relationships that you don't have to be alone in the world. We are like ourselves. We chose to come to this earth life and be humans and be separate in that way, but we still can be very much connected and we don't have to go through the world alone. That has been your narrative and your experience,
Mm-hmm.
and very painful, but it doesn't have to continue to be that way if you want that to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just add about quick the money piece and then we can wrap
Yeah, yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
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 So that one where it feels connected is if it's about self-worth. Like, do
Mm-hmm.
I deserve money? Do I deserve, and also looking at like wealth as bad. Like
Yeah.
maybe there's characteristics of people who have wealth that like you don't want to be associated with, or somehow it feels like, and maybe I don't know if there's beliefs because it feels like there's messages passed like given to you or said when you were younger that like it feels bad to have money.
Yeah. And I don't know, I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if that was an attitude that came through or specific words. Um,
It
but
feels like
yes,
around like humbleness, like there's something around
yes,
like being
yes,
humble.
yeah,
Mhm. Which you can be humble and have wealth, right? So this is where like limiting beliefs can really pop up and we get to
yeah,
decide like, is that actually true? Like maybe it's both and maybe it's not either or. Like
right,
either I'm a kind person or I'm a rich, horrible person. Like
right,
that we can be kind and be wealthy.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my most recent experience is I was talking to someone about anxiety related to finances, but I was just looking for moral support. But he offered financial support and I accepted it. And then he judged me for
Mm-hmm.
accepting the financial support.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me think when you said that wealth is, you were getting a feeling that my view as wealth is bad. That's kind of it. That felt very much like he was valuing his ability to throw money at a problem more than trying to dive into the emotions. And he even said he wasn't interested in digging into the emotional part of it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
But more thinking about when you're interacting with money or have ideas about money, separate wealth from the person. 'Cause I think we
Hmm.
tie them together understandably because of our
Right.
society and our experiences. But some people will use money for good and be very kind and not like have strings attached, and other people will use it for power and control and have strings attached and all sorts of other stuff and
Yeah.
use it as a way to give attention and love because they don't want to do it in other ways. So we just have to find the people and interact with people who will use money in a good way and know that we can also do that. We don't have to become those people that are use it in harmful ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what I would say, like kind of ongoing with money stuff, is I would make a list of beliefs that you have. Like what do you when you think of money, what comes to mind? I would encourage you to, if it makes sense, write a letter to money and as it's a relationship, how has money treated you? Are you angry at money? Do you feel abandoned by money?
Hmm.
And talk about how you want to change that relationship. What does that look like? What beliefs do you want to have? What relationship do you want to have? And then there might be some, cords to cut along the way, but that's where I would start.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to check to see if there's any last messages here before we wrap up. Nope, I'm getting the signal that that feels a good place to pause. I'm just going to have Archangel Michael come in and cut energy cords between us and close up your record. So just looks like a book closing to close your records.
Hmm.
Archangel Michael's coming in, cutting this energetic rope between us, separating our energy out. wrap you in a bubble of healing, light, and love. Put a color to that. Blue. Usually it's with the chakra, so that makes sense for
Mhm.
the throat chakra, speaking your
Oh,
truth,
okay.
reclaiming your
Yeah.
voice, um, and acknowledging what your younger self really wants to share with you so that she doesn't feel abandoned by you along with everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, thanks
Yeah.
for doing this.
Yeah, this was really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. If this conversation spoke to your soul, go ahead and like it, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to stay connected to more soul-led journeys. Your truth is sacred, your path matters, and you don't have to walk it alone. Until next time, be gentle with yourself.